All right, we are live. Um, I might, um, in the future, do a live stream with Brennan and Marcel, possibly. I've been really getting into trying to get into fantasy because eventually I'm going to get done with Halo and Star Wars, and then I'm going to be doing a lot of Star Trek. But I also wanted to just dive into a bunch of other things, so expand my taste a bit. So I started looking up, reviews of fantasy and sci-fi. I started watching a bunch of things on YouTube, and I found out about a thing called Malazan, which are 10 books with a bunch of different spin-off books as well. Some by Erickson, some by another person, and then also in between that, there's also like a comedy series that's like in between books. It's kind of confusing a little bit, just like the series in itself. But so I might do a live stream about this whole book, this first book with Marcel and Brennan at some point. I'm unsure. But today, before I forget my thoughts, because I've just started book two within book one, because there's several different books, kind of like Dune, in the actual novel itself. And we're still on the very first novel, but there's several different books within that, and this second book seems to be focusing on a new set of cast of characters. So I want to, before I forget, I want to focus on this first book and what specifically we get introduced to here. Um, so these are just my thoughts. This is not a full-on review. So before I get into any sort of spoilers, which is going to be most of this video, for the prologue and uh, the first several chapters up to 100 and like 20-ish pages in. So if you don't want that, I'll tell you when it's time to go. But I will say without a shadow of a doubt, this is phenomenal. If you're a fan of the Star Wars Expanded Universe and you follow my channel for some time, you know about supernatural encounters. Imagine that, but like times 1,000. This series is it doesn't hold your hand. It's very much. I still cannot even fully tell you, even if I wanted to spoil it for you, what's going on, because I'm not exactly clear on what is going on. I have a sort of slim understanding as to what's happening, because this story, it just throws you in to the world and you figure it out for yourself. It's not holding your hand. You're not going to know. And I'll say right off the bat, the series is not going to be for everyone. Some people are going to pick up this book and they're going to hate it, and they are not going to be able to get past this first book, and they're not going to give it a chance. But if you power through, I think, I mean, I haven't read the future stories, but I hear phenomenal things. But for me, while I may not be entirely accurate on what is going on, I'm having the time of my life just figuring it out and existing in this universe and going as slow as I probably have ever had with any novel ever, to just really take my time and absorb it all. And I still, again, I don't completely know what's going on, but I can say with a shadow of a doubt, I recommend this first book to you. If you have not heard about the series and you want to get into a new series, a fantasy book, I mean, prepare for your wallet if you're getting physical copies and not just on Kindle like I did, because this first book's pretty standard. But as you go on, you're going to get to 800 to 1,000 pages as a norm for a bunch of books moving forward. So it's an investment if you get into it. Um, but without spoilers, because I really don't know how to talk about it without spoilers. And I think the best way to experience this story is to kind of just throw you in. You really shouldn't know too much. I mean, I garnered a little bit, and I still had no idea what I was in for. So my best course of action to you is to just go into it. Read it, so that way if me and Brennan and Marcel ever discuss this book together, then you could join us in for that spoiler-filled discussion together, where Marcel has all the answers and me and Brennan only have that first context book, so we can talk about that. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm not promising anything, just a possibility. Um, hey, Sea Spider, how you doing, man? But again, without a shadow of a doubt, phenomenal. I recommend it. I recommend it. I recommend it. I recommend it. I'm going to talk about stuff in here. If you don't want anything whatsoever in terms of spoilers, then don't watch. Again, I still haven't fully understand what's going on in the main plot of this. So, I mean, I can tell you this stuff, and you still might have no idea what's going on once you start reading it. So, um, you know, you can stick around, because even if I tell you stuff in this, you're probably still gonna have no idea what's going on. Um, well, Sea Spider, as I was saying earlier, it is not for everyone. Um, it really seems like a type of thing where you are either gonna get heavily invested or you're gonna hate it. And there's really no in between there. Whereas with other things I haven't read it yet, but I hear things like Wheel of Time, much more palatable for a wide range of people. Um, and I hear great things about it. But I mean, this is amazing, but it's just not going to be for everyone, and that's just the way it is. You really have to invest time into it. And again, like I said, I've been preaching for the past 5 minutes. I still don't even know what I'm reading. So, but hopefully I can discuss this with Brennan in a future live stream or something, and maybe me and him can kind of piece together a little bit of what's going on. But I'm going to kind of not vaguely, but I'm going to kind of go into things, and you're not going to really understand what I'm talking about. So, um, it is 10 books. As I said before, this first book's pretty average. It's about 400, 500. It depends on the copy you have, but my copy's 400 something pages. But the norm is 800 to 1,000 pages each. That's 10 books in the main series. There's a sequel series being written. There's one book out. There's a couple prequel stuff. And then there's a couple comedy books that take place within the universe. And those are placed somewhere within the timeline. I don't know how that would work. But your best experience is starting with this one, not knowing anything. Anyway, so some things I have to talk about just to get them out of my head. So this is Gardens of the Moon, Malazan 1. We're talking only about book 1 within this novel, because there's several different books within the novel, by Stephen Erickson. So we begin finding out that there's this empire, and this emperor, whoever he is dead. He just died. There's a great quote in the prologue section of this book where "we are history relived," which is me paraphrasing, but I thought that was really poignant. So again, a lot of confusing dates here that I don't understand. But for instance, it says that it is the year 1154, and that's or not the year. Okay, sorry. Again, I'm sounding like a madman. It's 1,154 years of burn sleep. What does that mean? I don't know, but that's where we're at, and it is the 961th year of burn sleep. I don't know, but that's what it told me. We get introduced to a child. He's like 12 or something. His name is Ganios Stabro Paran. And we hear about these things called bridge burners, these people. And this kid says that he wants to be a soldier, and he's talking to this soldier, and also just a battle just went on, and there's people dying and whatnot. But after that, this kid's like, I'm gonna be a soldier, and this soldier's like, kid, you're stupid, basically, and like, you're gonna, you want to live a free life, then live it quietly. Don't be a soldier. And then guess what? Perron's gonna become a soldier, and we'll follow him 7 years later when he's an adult. But yeah, he became a soldier. We also learn about Napon. Again, I know nothing about this. All you need to know is that they are blue-skinned people. That's what I gathered from that. They are blue-skinned people. Then we have assassins, which are called the Claws, and they're like a whole organization. Think like Assassin's Creed or something. Like, it's a whole thing. But anyway, that's all of basically what I wrote down for the prologue. There's a lot more I could have gotten into, but this is just me spitballing. And then we get to book 1 officially, which is dubbed Pale. We get introduced to several things. We have Duzek One Arm, which is this military guy. He's pretty cool. We learned about another race thing, which is the Tistiandi. Anyway, yeah, 6 or 7 years since the prologue. There's some old lady named Riga, and she says her and this Fisher girl is linked, and then she gets like backhanded by this soldier. She dies, just straight up dies. Okay, but she has done something to this girl. Maybe possessed her. I don't know. She starts speaking weird. Actually, I mean, I do know it is, that is what that is. It's later on in the book kind of confirms that. We also meet these people called Cotillion and Aminus, probably butchering those names, but they basically like kidnapped the girl because she saw them. Again, I'm not giving this. You want context? I don't have any for you. This is what they gave me. Okay, it just throws you in. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I understand what's going on in the scene, but as to why it's happening, or the wins, or the hows, or the why, I don't know. I can't give you anything more than that because the book hasn't. So I'm along for the ride, same as you listen to me describe this gibberish. We also meet Lorne, who is a judicant, which I'll just say later on in book one. This person is like second in command, sort of, kind of, to the Empress, because there's now an Empress. She is now in charge after the Emperor died. And then we see Captain Perron again. So, like I said, the kid in the prologue wanted to become a soldier. Now he is. Also, the Fisher girl from the beginning, she goes to become a soldier as well, and she says her name is Sorry. Like, sorry, as in I'm sorry. Her name is Sorry. So that's interesting. We get introduced to this claw assassin guy named Topper, and he's really obsessed with the color green. And I really love his conversations with Perron. This is one of the most fun parts of the book for me so far. Again, I'm just listing stuff that I thought was interesting or important and wrote down, because I don't know what's going on. But I know what's going on in individual scenes, and I know what's going on with the individual characters, but as to the wider range of things, I don't fully understand. One cool thing that Topper says while him and Perron are talking in the book is that he says, words are like coin. It pays to hoard, kind of like in Game of Thrones, there's like, information is power, stuff like that. So, like the information that Perron has, it's like coin, and it pays to not spill it all out. We get introduced to a character named Tattersail, who is this like sorceress. She uses magic. She has this boyfriend, but not boyfriend. It's like a friend with benefits that she likes to have sex with. Okay. And, well, stuff happens there. But we also get introduced to another character. There's a lot of characters in this book, if you don't know, and I'm only 100 pages in, and I'm still getting introduced to new ones in book 2, which we haven't gotten to yet. But we have Whiskey Jack, who's another soldier guy. One reoccurring theme you'll see so far is that all these people work for the Empress, as far as I'm aware. We introduced another character named Quick Ben. Don't know much about him, except that he's an extremely powerful mage, which is abnormal, I suppose, for this army to have. Kalot is the name of the guy that is sleeping with Tattersail. Because basically we begin the section with Tattersail, because it stops being about Perron for a bit and goes to be about Tattersail. And Tattersail, we begin with seeing a battle that she's in with this guy named Rake. As this big battle goes on, and we see everybody die, and then it flashes back to before that battle, and so she's having the funsies with Kalot. Also, Lacine. Again, I'm spitballing here. I'm just saying things. I'm just getting it out there, so it can be out of my head. But Lacine, who is the Empress now, has an undead army. I just mentioned that because the book casually mentions it. What does that mean? What does that do to the world in large? I don't know, but we know that. We also learn about Talon Imas, which I think is another race. We're introduced to a lot of things with not much context, not much explanation. We know that Gerald Gallon is the archmage of this undead army that I just mentioned. And right, I said and Amaneus Rake. Rake is the most important thing here. He's this guy with like black skin. He's actually the cover that I'm using right now for my profile. Let me just do this real quick. Yeah, this guy. This is Rake. Okay, he's got black skin, like white hair, glowing eyes, kind of like Thrawn or something. And he just wrecks everything for a second, which is kind of crazy. But yeah. Again, he summons demons. What does that mean? I don't know. I don't tell you, but they're there, and then they get defeated by some of the guys. Um, but yeah, demons just casually pop up. All right. Um, but we also know that Rake is the lord of the Tistiandi. We also get mentions of elder magic, which is different from the magic that they use generally. Um, and the name of the demons is Keneral. I'm probably butchering that name. We get introduced to another character named Calum, who I imagine to be a black guy. It's not very specific. Could be wearing black armor, but I'm imagining black armor and a black guy. So that's where I'm at. We got Calum, who really likes to kill things. That's what we know about him. Also, Tattersail is 219 years old. Earlier on, because I completely glossed over this guy named Hairlock, and this is all something like absolute craziness to you. I understand. I don't understand what I'm saying. So I'm sure if you haven't read this, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But I'm just listing some of the things that I wrote down. But Hairlock dies pretty early on in the book. We see him like in half. But he pulled a Chucky from Child's Play and transferred his soul into a marionette doll. So he's walking around and talking. And this is considered, reasonably abnormal, but it's also not treated like as insane as that sounds. So just like reasonably weird, but not super weird like it is. But it's just casually just a little bit weird, like somebody wearing the wrong clothing, or I guess not wrong, but abnormal clothing. If somebody wore like a clown outfit to the middle of 12th grade English class, you'd be like, what? Like, that's how it's treated, but not like, oh, somebody's soul is just in a doll. But yeah, so he's still around. We get mentions of Draconin like armor or something, which sounds like dragons, possibly. I don't know. The Empress, we learn, or at least hear from somebody, this may be inaccurate. I don't know. It could be that this is what somebody else wants and isn't actually what the Empress wants, because we've got no perspective from the Empress. So I don't know what the Empress actually wants. All I know is what people say that she wants. So as far as the person that gave us the information is saying that the Empress wants Duzek, the one-armed guy, dead. Also, all of the characters at this point are seeming to speculate that Sari is possessed by something. And so they're trying to figure out like what they should do about that, what they should do with her. If she's like a spy for somebody else, like they don't know, but they're very suspicious of her at this point in time in the story. And then we get introduced to another thing because we go back to Piran, the character, and Piran it meets up with these bug people named Morinth. Okay, we got bug people. And they ride some corals or corels, which are basically like big giant dragonflies. So also just really unique so far, this setting in terms of just the weirdness of things. Again, I have no context, and you don't either. If you're listening to me ramble, you have no idea what the fudge I'm talking about, but I'm telling you, this is all like, maybe I'm not giving the best representation, but it just throws you in. Just like figure it out for yourself. And I'm making connections here and there, but I don't understand the larger scope of what's going on, but that's intentional. That's part of the fun, is kind of piece everything together. And then we also get introduced to the Thelamen, which are giants. We have giants in this world, and we get introduced to this character named Belladon, who seems like a pretty nice guy from the like one scene I've seen him in. Is he actually? I don't know. I imagine everybody will be pretty morally gray in these books, but Belladon seems pretty chill to me. He's a big, nice looking giant from what I can see. But we have the freaking, what's his name? Whiskey Jack, Calum, and Quick Ben talk about the old empire in like a section. And how all of them are always like pawns for greater things that they don't really understand. Just like we as readers have no idea what's going on. And like we have no idea what's going on either, but they're just being pawns for whatever is bigger or larger going on that we're not going to find out till like several books in, because there's obviously, just like Game of Thrones and other stories like such, there's big political things going on that we as a reader are unprivy to. And most of these characters that we're following don't have any idea of what's going on. Speaking of which, see Spider, you think this world? I mean, the cast of character. Yeah, first off, book two, which I'm not even talking about right now. This is still book one. When I say book two, I mean like this is another section of book one, which I'm not discussing here. Is introducing me to entirely different characters that we haven't talked about yet. So, and get this, book two is an entirely different continent. So every single character that I talk about in this book won't matter for the next one. So talk about big. The next book won't even have any of these characters return. They won't return till the third book. So that's fun. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, they talk about the old empire and what it was like and how they're pawns in this game. And speculate on a lot of things. Moving on, we've the ascendant, Tattertail, possession, and tarot cards. I'm sorry, I said carrot. I'm so stupid. So Tattertail has this thing that she can do, which uses like these tarot card like things, and she can like not predict the future, but she can kind of sense what's going on. I don't even fully understand that, but it's something that they can do because they ask her to do it, so they can kind of like figure out some things. I don't know, man. That's just what I've been given. I really want to talk about this with Brennan because I don't know what's happening. In the larger scheme, I understand. Like so far, I get like every character's like them. I get them. I get Tattertail's cool. Perron's cool. Whiskey Jack. All these people are cool. I like them all. I don't understand exactly why they're doing all the things that they're doing, but but this just it is huge. Mind you, I'm only okay. Let me tell you right now where I'm at exactly, but I'm not actually talking about the stuff in this section right now. But I am 146 pages in, and I'm only talking about like the first 120 to 130 pages. So that can give you a glimpse of and this is all just within the first 130 pages. Yeah, this is only like 500 pages. Imagine next couple books as it gets further and further is going to be 1,000 each, 1,000 pages. And then there's more to it because there's prequels and stuff and stories that take place in between. Yeah, does it sound confusing? Am I making it? Am I explaining? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining myself at all, but I appreciate that you think it makes some sort of sense. But yeah, so Tattertail can do that. She could use these tarot card things. They just kind of the other characters ask her, "Hey, can you do this real quick?" So she starts doing it as if we're just meant to know what that means, but we don't know what that means. We've never seen this before. It's just done casually. But that is something she can do. They just start showing that, and then we get introduced to some more characters. Again, they're still part of the army, but they're in a tavern, like because like their day off or something. Picker and Antsy, which I think Antsy is a funny name for someone. We also get introduced to Hedge, Mallet, and Trots, which I think are really funny names. We also get mentioned, not introduced, we get mentions of another race called Barghasts, which, as far as I can understand, are just albino, milk white people. So will we explore them more? Probably. I don't know about this first book, but we had mentions of them here. We actually, again, it's been several pages since now, but now we have another chunk of the section that shows Aminus and Cotillion from the beginning that I mentioned during the prologue with the Fisher girl, who's now Sari. They are here. How Sari got to where she's at now and is not with them, I don't know. Unless she is working with them. I'm not exactly sure at the moment. I don't know. But they are around, and they explain in this particular section that their goal is to kill the Empress, which puts a little bit better things into perspective as to why in the prologue or at the beginning of chapter 1 that they had to take the girl because she had seen their face, and they're trying to do a very illegal thing, obviously. So I get why they wouldn't want any information of their doings to be known. So that provides some small bit of context as to why. But why did they backhand this old lady and kill her? I don't know. Maybe they're just having a bad day. But I at least understand why they're being so secretive. Yeah, right? But like trying to read it, I still like if you feel like you're still a little like confused, I am confused too. Because the story's not giving me all the information. It's just trying to let me fill it in and make sense of it. Um, uh, so also at the beginning, I didn't mention because I just forgot. There were these hounds, these big. I imagine like either dogs or wolves. I'm not exactly sure that were killing a bunch of people. Uh, and then we learn here that there's this whole thing of 7 hounds of hell, which I don't know if it's actually hell, but they're not normal animals. We even get a section of the book, I think in book 2, so this might be a spoiler to book 2, but we have a small section where it's from their POV, which means that they're intelligent, that I could have a section of this book what that's their thought process, which I thought was interesting. Um, then we get introduced, we don't get introduced, but we get another mention of another possible race with the Tisti Adur, which are like to the Tistian, which are like a slightly less dark. It's a slightly less dark version of this, basically. That's as far as I understand it. Like instead of looking like pure black, they don't. At least from the I did look up some fan art online to try to get some semblance of understanding. So what I saw, it looks like they are, instead of being like pure black like that, they're more like just like like a real life like black, I guess. I'm not trying to be like racist. I'm just saying like, and then they don't have glowing eyes. That's as far as I understand it. Anyway, what's next? Oh, also a chapter starts with no context. I get context after the fact, but we start with with Piran dead or dying. We didn't get a scene of him dying, but he's apparently dying. And there's these two brother and sister spirits, something or another, bargaining for his life for some reason. And there's this shadow person. I don't know. But anyway, when we cut back to reality, snap, there goes gravity, Eminem, um, his wounds are kind of slowly healing, and we see the characters that I've been discussing, like Tattertail and all the other soldier people, like going like, "Oh no, he's dead," only to realize, no, he's still alive. Quick, get a healer because he's not dead. But they're very surprised by this because he got stabbed right underneath the heart and in the side of the ribs, just for good measure. So they are also just like we are, equally bewildered that Piran is still alive. But I'm just saying that when you read the book, there's no context to the Starlet scene. It's only provided after all that weirdness that, oh, he got stabbed when he was like leaving the inn or whatever. Okay, all right, that happened. But I at least know now that the chronological order of events is he leaves this tavern and he got shanked, and then that scene happens. But I'm just saying, in the order, we get that weird scene and then context after the fact. So it's like, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not the normal, it's not a normal sort of storytelling thing. I don't know how to explain it. Like it just, again, the story just really throws you in. Most stories like Star Wars or Halo, or even Halo, like I feel like every story usually gives you a pretty good grasp of what's happening, even if you don't understand everything. This story very much is like, no, this is Tron Legacy. We are going to transport you into this fantasy world, and you're just going to exist in it. If you're confused, figure it out. You will figure it out. Trust that I will provide you answers. That's what Steven Erikson is basically saying. You're going to be as confused as some of these characters are, and some of these characters are going to know more than you, and that's okay. You're along for the ride. Yeah, there's a lot of different species, and I haven't even mentioned all of them yet. Um, yeah, it's really confusing to talk about. Go eat dinner. I'll trust this later if you're on the stream. All right, man. Go enjoy dinner. No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, Brennan's loving it. So, anyway, well, for me speaking to the ether, um, that's basically the gist of that. Actually, that's kind of how book 1 ends, and we begin book 2, which is Daro Justin, which is the name of a city, and we're following completely different people. I'll just say their names real quick, but I'm not going to dive into it until I finish book 2 or whatever. Um, with Croupy, which is a character, and a guy named Crocus or Crocus, I don't know, and Tallow Crepfar. Yeah. And I'll get into that in another stream. But yeah, that's my ham-fisted attempt in 30 minutes to explain the first book within the very first book, which is confusing to say, of Malazan, Gardens of the Moon. Oh, I also forgot to mention, just real quick, there was a big battle that happened, and I forgot to completely mention, this is why I put this freaking picture up, that there is a floating city on a moon. I forgot to mention that, but that's pretty insane. Forgot to mention that important fact. But yeah, during one of the battles, there's a big, giant city. Oh my god. Anyway, these are my bewildering thoughts during this first section. I hope to, with Marcel and Brennan at some point, maybe discuss this book as a whole when me and Brennan have finished it. I don't know. But that is my brief thoughts on book 1. And then I'll discuss either book 2 and book 3 or book 2. So it depends on what book 3 looks like. If I'm returning to characters I know, then I'll probably just group book 2 and 3 together, or I won't. It really just depends. But basically, this world is huge. I don't understand anything that's happening. Or I understand some things. I don't understand everything. And it's a good time. And I recommend checking out. Like I said, not a traditional review, just giving you my thoughts on this initial little beginning section, because there's a lot to talk about even within just that chunk. But it is something that I think is worth diving into. Like I said, last thing, if it's for you, you're going to get really into it. If it's not for you, you're just not going to like it, and that's okay. But I think the prose are excellent. I think the writing is excellent. And while the story may not be structured in the most formulaic way, the way that you would expect most stories to be done, it is actually kind of wonderful that I can kind of just immerse myself in a world that I don't completely understand, but I trust this author to eventually provide me all the answers so that I can understand it eventually. And even and again, if I do a reread at some point, everything will be crystal clear. So I think that is all I'll say here. Also, damn it, I forgot. In this world, it's kind of a big important thing. Gods can be killed. They are not immortal, and they didn't always exist. For instance, me, McNinnal Alex, if I were to get 10 million subscribers and all of you started to worship me, in Malazan, I'd actually become a god through your worship, and my power would depend upon the amount of faith given to me. That's one of the biggest aspects that I've noticed. And so like the thing about that is obviously it's kind of like a give and take thing here, right? In this universe, because in order for God to and I don't know too much about the gods. It's just like things that have been talked about briefly, and they really like in a sentence or two. So if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss it. But basically, there's like kind of a give and take, right? Like, sure, God is all powerful if they got these followers, but at the same time, they're kind of beholden to the followers, because if the followers stop following them, they lose their power. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know how they're going to deal with that in future books, but it is an interesting premise. Again, and I don't fully understand how that works, but that is something vaguely introduced to here. And I won't lie, when I was looking at non-spoiler reviews, this was something that was mentioned. So this was one of the easiest things for me to grasp when I read that, because I already had prior context, and I can't lie about that. I did hear about that in one of the reviews, non-spoiler wise, that I watched. So, but that is a very interesting thing that's not really dived into in this particular story. Alas, we shall see what happens moving forward. Thank you all so much for watching. This is my insane ramblings. Think of that meme with the guy with the different things on the wall. That's me right now. But I have to say I'm a fan. I'm into it. I want more of it. I'm sucking it up like drugs at a candy store. But also, one last thing. I keep saying, oh my God, almost last thing. But this really should not be something you read on like a lunch break, or like when you have 10 minutes of free time. Like, this is something you need to study and enjoy and invest. Like, if you got 5 hours of spare time, that's when you dive into this. You don't do this on your lunch break at work. You need to really invest your time into it to understand it, or you're going to miss a lot. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. I'm in the stream now. Anyway, till next time.